Hold that thought. We'll be right back with more Magic. Hello and welcome to Grand Prix Atlanta. I'm Randy Bueller. I'm joined here by Zach Hill. We're getting ready to watch round 7. It's going to be Nathan Holiday, who you see on the left of your screen, against David Ochoa. Both players wearing the Channel Fireball apparel. Nathan had a top 8 at the most recent Grand Prix in Minneapolis the week before the PT. David has been grinding GPs all year with decent success.
Yeah, all year and a lot of the last several years to a decent degree of success the entire time. We saw a top 8 finish from his teammate Josh Utter-Layton last weekend. So Ochoa, I think, looking to kind of rebalance his end of the equation with a top 8 this week.
Probably not the curve he dreamed of when he built this deck. Turn 3 Sedge Scorpion as his first play.
Yeah, not quite on time, but maybe better late than never. It's first play of the game from Ochoa. Holiday.
It's a particularly good play. Holiday, okay.
Oh,
wow.
Man.
Courser of Crewfix is the turn 3 play from Nathan Holiday. Revealing Magma Jet. Holiday's deck looks awesome so far.
Oh,
no,
okay.
Go away. Those dreams are delicious.
Again, we're seeing cards that were all constructed all-stars last week. You see a Polis Crusher in his hand. Courser Crewfix revealing Magma Jet. I think there was like a red-green aggressive deck that did super well on day one that was like literally all of those cards.
Is he splashing for Elspeth?
Yeah.
That's when you know it's really a constructed deck. He's red-green splashing for Elspeth.
Oh man. That's a Satyr Nix Smith getting in for 2, meaning that unless Ocho can remove it, Nathan can untap and make another 3-1.
Sedge Scorpion attack didn't work out so well.
Yeah, that's true. That's like one of the cards that can punish you the most. We see Satyr Nix Smith here. 2-1 haste for 3, which is not the worst rate, but not great. But once it becomes untapped, whenever he inspires, you get a 3-1 with haste. So you kind of level up, and the haste actually allows you to sneak in an attack there every once in a while.
Cavern Lampad just comes down on turn 4. Ochoa wants some blockers.
Yeah, we see him leave back that Sedge Scorpion so that he can have 2 blockers, so it doesn't become Holiday just drawing a single removal spell and getting in another very valuable attack with that Nix Smith.
Holiday does pay the 3 mana for the Inspired Trigger. Makes himself a 3-1.
And interestingly, we know Holiday has removal in his hand. So if Ocho had gotten greedy with the Scorpion again, he would have been punished for it.
Yeah, and Ochoa didn't know that Holiday was out of lands. So, I mean, I'm sure Ochoa was living in fear of untap, pay 3, land, Magma Jet your guy. Holiday elects to attack with just the 3-1. And Ochoa elects not to trade.
You mentioned Magma Jet. Of course, Ocho knew about the Magma Jet, like you were saying, because it was revealed to the Courser of Crewfix. One of the only ways in which having Courser on the table can be a drawback sometimes.
Wow. Lampad attacks. Interesting. Both of these players are 6-0. It's a green-black versus a red-black. Have you gotten much of a chance to look at the deck lists?
I've not really been able to pay that much attention to deck lists just yet, although everything in Holiday's hand seems totally unbelievable.
Oh, wow. There's even a Magma Spray.
Oh, wow.
That last mana, he didn't need the land to play a removal spell. I'll save the Magma Jet for later. I'm going to Magma Spray. Kill your Sedge Scorpion. I'm guessing this is end step. All right. Okay. Ochoa saves it.
What? Go ahead. Oh, he's ready.
And going through Holiday's deck, we see he's got Magma Jet in the main deck, 2-headed servers, a decent amount of removal. The all-star out of Theros probably being the Polis Crusher that is currently in his hand. He's got Fated Conflagration, Bolt of Karamos, Fall of the Hammer, out of Born of the Gods. So basically all of the red you could possibly want out of your strongest pack for red.
Sure.
The Holiday's deck is a strong deck of Magic cards.
Ochoa hasn't really played good cards yet.
No.
I guess Feast of Dreams is good.
Yeah, Feast is good, and Sedge Scorpion, I think, very powerful in this format.
Yeah, Ochoa saved it from the Magma Spray, but Magma Jet does kill the Sedge Scorpion, and it's looking like Holiday's going to get another hit in with the Nick Smith.
Looking at Ochoa's main deck, he's got an Acroan Horse that we've seen do good work in the featured match area, 2 different matches now in his sideboard, but he does have access to Bow of Nylea out of green, probably one of his more powerful cards, but most of his other cards from Theros not terribly exciting. And he's got a decent aggressive curve with Swordwise Centaur, a pair of Feast of Dreams out of Journey into Nyx, as well as Doomwake Giant cast into Darkness. So and 2 copies of
Doomwake
Goldeneye.
Giant would be insane here.
Yeah. Oh man.
He stopped on 4 lands too. I mean, he could be in his hand for all we know. And Nick Smith in the 3-1 get in.
So Holiday's deck gets a lot of its power out of the first couple of sets. Ocho really leaning on Journey into Nyx for some of his premier cards.
Yeah, Archetype of Aggression, it's added to the board for Nathan Holiday. Okay, that also has Delicious Dreams.
Dreams.
Feast.
And I do see a Doomwake Giant in Ocho's
still
hand.
no 5th land?
Yeah, it doesn't look like it. Brutal
That
for Ochoa. See, Archetype of Aggression here just bit the dust. It would allow those 2-1s and 3-1s to take advantage of their power to toughness ratio. But
Okay, Gnarled Mass. 2 swamps. Not very exciting. Yeah, Ochoa just really wanted to stay alive long enough to get to that Doomwake Giant, to just clear the board. But Holiday's, he's got 8 power. Ochoa's going to be forced to block here, I think.
Yeah, I think at this point you absolutely have to block at least one of those creatures. Fall to 5 so you're not dead to just any removal spell. But yeah, if you're Ochoa, you're just praying for a land right now.
Yeah. How many cards? 3 cards.
Yeah, send him in. Nathan Holiday is not worried about getting the Nick Smith through unblocked. He's willing to trade it for either of those creatures.
Yeah, at this point, the Nick Smith has just done so much work for you that it's hard to
Ochoa
ask
is
for
going to
more
trade.
And Ocho just realizes, is like, look, I know I have Giant in my hand, but if I don't get that land, I can't just play into that out.
Yeah, I mean, it's down to 7 this way anyway. Of course, there's the land. Yep, Doomwake Giant. Wow, how much better would that have been last turn?
Oh my
He'd
goodness.
just be up 2 guys and 3 life.
Yeah, I mean, it would have completely changed the pace of the game. That said, as it is, still not terrible, but definitely not as effective as destroy every single creature on your side of the table, get a 4/6, and attack you for 4.
Yeah, Holiday still got a handful of gas.
The card that I would want to side in if I was Ochoa, knowing Holiday's hand, is Eye Gouge. He's got a pair of Cyclopes in his hand. Ocho does not have any Eye Gouge, though.
Yeah, there is the Polis Crusher for Nathan Holiday.
Relevantly, protection from enchantments allows it to attack through that Doomwake Giant.
Very relevant.
I mean, you could also just activate Monstrous and kill it if he had a 6th land.
Ilea's presence.
And relevantly shrinking the Polis Crusher if he has Bile Blight or something, but it doesn't look like that's what's happening.
Ochoa is still setting up. Game's almost over, and he's almost done setting up for it.
Oh, and wow, Holiday with that 6th land, able to trigger Polis Crusher. The question is just if he wants to. He's, you know, Ocho has 3 mana up. Hero's Downfall could punish Holiday for activating it.
It is rare.
Yeah, I think you just go for it if you're Nathan here. Like, what's the worst that happens? He attacks you for 4, you know?
Right, right.
You don't want to give him a turn to untap and just sip of Hemlock or Polis Crusher. It would feel very awkward. Yeah.
Yeah, he goes for it. And Ochoa scoops him up. Just could not find that 5th land. Doomwake Giant would have been amazing if it could come out a turn or 2 earlier.
Yeah. And Satyr Nick Smith just doing tons and tons and tons of work there. I think we saw it make 2 or 3 tokens.
It was at least 3.
It was so many tokens, and I mean, taking over that entire game by himself. And we saw Holiday win that game in decisive fashion. he had a grip full of threats that he just
Yeah,
didn't
and to be
cast.
fair, we never saw Ochoa play anything that would have dealt with a Polish Crusher.
Right.
I mean, it could have been the Holiday would have just won with the Crusher anyway.
True. It's an excellent point. Yeah, I'm looking at Ochoa's deck. He doesn't appear to have a Sip of Hemlock, doesn't have a Lash of the Whip, so a Polish Crusher represents a pretty significant problem for him.
Other feature matches going on. You can see on the next table over, Alex Majlaton and Frank Skarin are both also shuffling up for their game too. Skarin, who won Grand Prix Philadelphia quite recently. He's on the left, Majlaton on the right, and then on the back table, we've got Dennis Rashid playing against John Stern and Andres Prost versus Carvalho.
Is that Pedro Carvalho?
Yeah.
Frank Skarin's last GP Top 8 was in Theros Block Limited, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Pretty powerful.
Won the tournament. Here's the upcoming webcast schedule. Grand Prix Manchester next weekend. If you want to try your hand at Theros Block Constructed, feel free to head for England.
You can hang out with Rich Hagan.
Yes,
actually, while you're
should be a good one. There is a weekend off there, and then a couple of standard Grand Prix. Grand Prix Moscow and Grand Prix Chicago in June, followed by the double Grand Prix weekend, Washington, D.C. and Milan, filling your entire calendar with streamed GP action. We'll be back to Modern at the end of July for Grand Prix Boston, and then the big one, Pro Tour Magic 2015. All of these storylines, who's going to go to Worlds? Is it going to be Reed Duke or Jeremy Dizani, who's remembered forever as the player of the year? Who's going to win the Pro Tour? What's going to be in Magic 2015? Definitely one I'm looking forward to.
Answers to all of your questions and more at Pro Tour Magic 2015. I'm excited for Grand Prix Boston. That's going to be the first Grand Prix I'll be able to play in that's
Oh, is that right?
constructed in about a year and a half.
Nice.
Yeah. So got to brew up something crazy for Modern. I'm currently on Affinity with 4 main deck Spellskite, so if anyone wants to steal that technology,
You're going to claim credit for it
yeah,
when
exactly.
they win.
It's the privilege of being a coverage reporter. You can just name drop ideas you have and take credit for them later. Card allows Master of Ethereum to be protected. I'm telling you, it's inspired genius.
I will look out for that in Boston.
See players shuffling up. One of the things I'm going to be thinking about, Randy, is whether either of these players change their entire deck. In almost every feature match, we've seen at least one player shake up their, not just a few sideboard cards, but sub in a completely different deck for the second game. We saw Sam Black do it. We saw, I believe, Paulo Vitor Damo de Rosa do it.
William Jensen did it last round.
Billy Jensen, yep, exactly. I think there's so many pools and so many builds. You know, one of the things that you're taking advantage of if you're a player with buys is showing these decks to all of your friends.
Right.
And you're saying, like, hey, how could I have done this better? Or is there another deck I could have built for a different matchup?
Yeah, I walked over during round 3. It was Sam Black, William Jensen, Reed Duke, Owen Turtenwald. They were all sitting there, just had their decks splayed out on the table, offering each other advice on what they would do and how they would build it. Oh, Jamie Park was in that, in that as well. Just all of them had their decks laid out.
And that is yet another advantage of being on some of these incredible teams, is that you just get such a hive mind to help you out in between rounds.
Looks like Holiday is going to take a mulligan. So I talked to Jensen a little bit after the round. He was actually coming over, you know, did I play it right? What did you think of this decision? And, you know, I really complimented him on the sideboard. And he said that, you know, the deck that he sideboarded into, it is kind of a little bit of a play draw thing. Like the red-white deck is more aggressive. And he prefers the blue-red version, the sort of the control-ish one that he just got the blowout win in game 2 with. Well, not the blowout win, but, you know, he was winning despite being mana screwed because the matchup was so good that he sideboarded his way into. He said that he likes that deck unless his opponent has bombs. Like, really, more than play draw, it's like, if their deck is full of bombs, I want to play the aggressive red-white deck because I want to try to kill them before they can draw them. But if they have a Born Overlord and I'm playing the red-blue version, they're going to draw it. I'm going to give them 20 turns, and I can't beat a Born Overlord, so they're going to draw it, and they're going to beat me with it. Just kind of an interesting way of looking at things. It's almost like deeper into the tournament, he's more likely to run into those Born Overlord sort of bomb-heavy decks. And so if he's survived the first couple of rounds, now he's kind of got the right game 1 deck.
And that's something you have to think about when you have 3 buys. You're going to be up against good decks.
Yeah. Here we go with game 2. Ochoa on the play this time, and he leads with 2 land and a Golden Hind. Oh, Magma Spray. No hesitation from Nathan Holiday, and that is the correct play, I believe.
And it's interesting, Magma Spray, you know, arguably the best red common, I think probably decisively the best red common in Journey into Next. People ask all the time why it's so good. You know, a lot of things in this format get big very fast, but being able to leverage your turn one when you're not doing anything else on such a tempo play, you know, if Holiday had followed that up with a 2-drop, that would have been brutal.
Star Chart Warrior?
Yeah.
Star Charted Warrior.
I've lost more to that card and Setessan Oathsworn than any other card in this format, just seeing my opponent just go off.
Yeah, they always feel clunky when you've got them.
Yeah.
You see all the games where they're trapped in your hand, and it's like a 4-minute 2-2, and you have no tricks. Your opponent sees all the games where you smash them with it. Doomwake Giant down for David Ochoa. Now here's Courser for Nathan Holiday, revealing a flurry of horns, but no land.
And Cursor of Kruvix, a lot of people say it's basically the best limited card in the format just because it comes down so early, generates you so much advantage, and is a big body to begin with. But definitely we have not seen Holiday hit a land on it yet. When your opponent has double Feast of Dreams, it's certainly less secure than it could be.
We'll see if it lives this game. Yeah, there's a good look at Doomwake Giant. 4-5. All your enchantments give everything on the other side of the board -1/-1.
It's
Very powerful.
It's interesting. It's a card that kind of came to prominence last weekend at the Pro Tour as a way to answer Elspeth.
Yes.
It ended up doing pretty good work just as a huge creature. You know, threaten planeswalkers, hard to block with Prognostic Sphinx because you have any enchantment that's going to kill the Sphinx.
There's the Courser.
And Courser really almost needing no introduction, probably the defining card of the block format.
All right, go away. No Courser for you.
And
Smash.
not only taking out arguably one of in Holiday's most powerful cards, although we saw a lot of bombs last round, but allowing them to crack in for 6 damage, and Holiday really on his back foot right here. Just not the same game we saw in game 1 at all.
Yeah, Magma Spray slowed things down by killing the Golden Hind, but he didn't do anything. He didn't do anything on turn 2, 3, or 4.
Well, and exactly, you know, wasn't really able to capitalize on getting back some tempo from the Hind.
Well, here's Volpine Goliath. Marsha was describing this earlier today as a dragon. It's gigantic, 6'5", survives most of the removal in the format.
It's funny you mentioned that. I teamed for Pro Tour Barcelona with 4-time Pro Tour Top 8 competitor Moraine Leibard of the European coverage team, and I referred to the fox as a dragon, and he looked at me, he says, no, it's a fox, and then put it in his sideboard. So, but I think as the format slowed down, the card has gotten better and better. You know, it really is huge. It has evasion.
Yeah.
It's hard to deal with a single card. I mean, it really is a very, very powerful card.
Yeah, it's a lot harder in full block to get a very linear deck. You can't just get a heroic deck. You can't really even get a constellation deck. Like the mechanics, there's so many mechanics at this point that your decks can't be quite as single-minded or focused. So yeah, just big block and tackle magic cards are good.
Well, and we see it just brick walling Ochoa's offense. We
Yep.
like Ochoa could have attacked with the Scorpion, but elected
Rather
not to
block
do
with
so.
the Scorpion,
Yeah,
I think.
yeah, exactly.
It's not a race the Scorpion wins. Flurry of Horns, pair of 2/3 Minotaurs. They do have haste, but Nathan Holiday declines to attack. We have Ye Old-Fashioned Stall. Golden Hind doesn't do anything to break up the stalemate.
Ye old-fashioned stall, defining sealed decks since 1990. I don't know. When did you first
4?
start playing sealed deck? 4,
I don't
5?
think people played sealed deck in '93. I think it was just Magic.
That was right, exactly. I remember some good Ice Age sealed
Oh
decks.
wow,
From,
Ice Age sealed was insane.
of course, I
You have
say
like
good.
1 power evasion creature was
That was the best
bomb.
possible.
You're splashing for a 1 power evasion creature because you can win in 20 turns.
I double splashed 2/3 for 1 BB snow-covered swamp walk.
We did what we had to do.
I say double splash. I think it was probably just running like a 6/6/5 mana base.
Sure.
So you see Holiday counting up that damage. The thing is he's sort of stabilized the board, but it's going to be really hard for either player to commit to anything right here because, you know, losing a key blocker just as, you know, that plus a removal spell for your opponent means you're dead in a board state like this.
Two-headed Cerberus joins Nathan Holiday's side of the board. So how does the stalemate get broken?
Well, I think Ocho can draw a way to target that Setessan Oathsworn. I think that is a big way. I think Ochoa
Uncharted Warrior, but yeah.
Staunch-Hearted Warrior, making it, at least a 4/4 with any other puppet can attack through that Goliath. I think also Ochoa could play Nylea's Presence into another enchantment, shrinking Holiday's cards enough to really be able to get through and killing that Cerberus entirely.
Or he could add to the stall by giving Nathan Holiday an 0-4 wall. In from the sideboard? You said that started in the sideboard?
Yeah, it did start in the sideboard. We see it not in Ochoa's main deck right here. I think the card
like
is
a card that is at its best against red-green.
I mean, yeah, it's good against red-green when you know you're going to stall. They're not attacking you with evasive creatures, so the 1/1s you can leverage. Kind of awkward, though, when your deck is a bunch of ground pounders. You can't really attack into it, or they'll just block and let it die.
Right.
So, I mean, by playing the Acroan Horse here, Ochoa's saying he is in this game for the extreme long haul. Doesn't plan on attacking with that Doomwake Giant anytime soon.
I mean, I guess that's what his draw gave him. It did feel to me like Ochoa was the one who was threatening to break the stalemate. Like, Holiday's board is stitched together all on the back of that one Vulpine Goliath.
Yeah, exactly. And Ochoa with Doomwake Giant can set up very favorable combats, but...
Yeah, or the Staunch Warrior, like you said.
Right. But I think he's saying, like, okay, let's hang out. I'll get some tokens from a horse, and even if he has to break it, he's going to get 3 tokens or something.
So what does Ochoa want to draw into, then? Does he have, like, some giant Abhorrent Overlord, or...
Looking at his
Cavern
deck,
Lampads could break the stalemate.
the Cavern Lampad would be very effective here.
Although the first one just kills an Acroan Horse.
Right,
First
because
attack.
it's an artifact. Yeah,
Right, it can
exactly.
block.
He has Fleet Feather Sandals in his sideboard. If he brought that in, that would just be a tremendous beating here. I mean, bringing in Fleet Feather Sandals is going pretty deep. Nylea's Presence is interesting here because it allows him to get at least 1 trigger off the Doomwake Giant. But again, playing the horse means you're not really in it to generate an incremental uptake here. And I'm looking through both players' deck lists to see if they have any sort of vicious top decks. I don't think Holiday would, I think he could use a Pinnacle of Rage, but as you were talking about, a Bestow creature, and here is a big one. Oh, and
So Nylea's Presence first. That gives everybody -1/-1. Emissary, Erebos' Emissary, onto the Staunch-Hearted Warrior. Not only turns the Staunch-Hearted Warrior into a 7/7, but also gives everybody -1/-1 again. So that's enough to take out the Cerberus. Those Minotaurs are 0/1s. Goliath was briefly smaller as well, but Ochoa does not attack.
And I'm interested in that attack. I mean, with Vulpine Goliath at 3 toughness, you have a lot of creatures that could have got in.
Yep. You lose the wall, though.
Yeah, you
Any attack
absolutely
would
do.
have killed the wall.
That is true.
I think Ochoa thinks he can just go wide here.
I mean, he's got
eventually-
5 tokens.
Yeah.
And he's at 20 life, so I mean, there isn't that much of a reason to pull the trigger here.
I mean, if his opponent has some sort of sweeper, like basically Anger the Gods is the only card I think Ochoa really fears. Not sure what other red bomb he'd be living in fear of.
Anger would be a complete beating here.
Right.
I mean, it would mop up the Minotaurs, and then, Ochoa would still have a
Here's
horse.
Fated
but
Conflagration.
strong.
He's gonna deal with Gnarled Mass before it gets out of control. Is that what's going on?
Yes, right, exactly. Squelching Leeches
Squelching
right now,
Leeches.
only a 3/3, but can get out of hand eventually, and Holiday saying, let's not worry about that right now. By the way, I'd love to scry into an answer that would allow me to do something here.
Is that Raised by Wolves he's looking at in the scry?
It absolutely is.
Yeah, he's gonna top bottom. Well, he's bottom of the land. He's looking at the Raised by Wolves.
Seems hard to me to put away a Raised by Wolves.
It's one of his better cards.
It doesn't really do a lot here,
Uh-uh.
but not that many cards do. But it looks like he's saying, no, I need to draw to something else. It's not something we see all the time. And, I mean, yeah, Ochoa just...
Yeah, he's just gonna build up a bunch of tokens. He's gonna win with 1 Alpha Strike.
That's the thing. You're just making sure there's nothing mathematically that's going to go super wrong for you. A Scouring Sands from Holiday would actually be pretty big game here, because that would allow him to get rid of the Scorpion and the Soldier tokens, really start getting in there with that Vulpine Goliath. He'd have to pump it in order to get through the Staunch-Hearted Warrior, but it would have 1 damage on it from the Sands, and he's got a lot of time to dig into something.
Holiday does have an Arbor Colossus in his deck.
And it's an Arbor Colossus that would have Trample due to the archetype of aggression.
He's got a Fall of the Hammer. He's got a Pinnacle of Rage.
See more and more monsters on Holiday's side of the board.
Hydra
Holiday's
Broodmaster is amongst his monsters as well.
Oh man, from Holiday?
Yeah, yeah.
And Hydra Broodmaster could get big enough to matter. I mean, if it's doubling counters every turn and has Trample, you know, exponential growth for you.
Ill-Tempered Cyclops has come down and gone monstrous.
But the second that Holiday plays the Hydra, Ocho could decide, okay, I'm going to start getting aggressive. And Ocho has 3 cards in his hand. I mean, he could be setting up, playing multiple enchantments in a turn. He, you know.
Yeah, 3 enchantments wipes out almost everything. Well, maybe not anymore. Wipes out a couple things.
Definitely a lot of things, yeah. And whoop, there it is.
Yeah, there is the Arbor Colossus.
I mean, if you're Holiday, this has just got to blow your mind. You've got like a 6/6 Trample that has monsters activated. You've got a Vulpine Goliath. You've got an Arbor Colossus, and still, there isn't that much you can do.
Ochoa plays a Vulpine Goliath of his own.
This is the most power we've seen on the board at once in quite some time.
Wow, yeah. I mean, a lot of formats, it would just be time to see who draws an overrun.
Yeah.
Not really an overrun in this format.
So, yeah, Ocho just drawing.
When does Ochoa go for it? Ochoa is the one who's got inevitability, right? He gets so many tokens that all of his creatures sideways one time will get it done.
I think so. I mean, Ocho also might just be milking Holiday for information. I mean, he knows he's got to play a 3rd game, so why not, you know, see as many cards as you possibly can.
Sure.
I mean, on the other hand, I don't think he has great attacks yet. I mean, we see 12 tokens. So, oh man.
The Lyre, Siren Song Lyre on the inspired creature.
Oh wow. So we could have a big Lyre turn if we wanted to, but it doesn't look like that's how it's gonna go.
Well, I mean, Siren Song Lyre, yeah, gives him the ability to pay mana and tap a creature. You can also just start tapping Arbor Colossus.
Yeah,
I mean, the fact that it's on a Fairy Span Tromper means he gets to trigger Inspired every turn.
Exactly. Yeah, I was thinking if he had enough mana to go like equip, tap, you know, your blockers and win. I don't think he's quite there yet. But yeah, you're right. The Centaur growing is very relevant here. But if you're Ocho, I just think you want to like play a bunch of enchantments in the same turn. Running the feature match area out of soldier tokens. I couldn't see what just. I think that's a the 1/1 with devotion to green gets a +1/+1 counter for each green mana symbol. So that card is big.
No, it's just the guy that has 1/+1/+1
Oh,
counter.
okay. It's the 2 mana one. My fault. Less big.
Leaf Crown Dryad on the archetype, creating a 5/4 reach.
And that's really relevant because Holiday, if he's going to win this game, as opposed to
tap
just
the
stall.
horse. Now you can attack.
So you can get in
that
there.
does enable an attack.
Right. You can attack with Warrior if you want to. You can attack with Goliath if you want to.
No attacking.
And we
someday.
Right. Hypothetically. We see Holiday boost his archetype so that it's just less likely to die to Doomwake Giant triggers. He could have interestingly, or no, that doesn't work that way. I was thinking he could give his opponent's creature flying and then blow it up with Colossus, but it doesn't get flying, it can just block as though it has flying with reach.
Big crazy game.
I mean, I think this is a point where if you're playing the game, you actually have to count, like, how many creatures do I have? How many will I lose on the attack? How much damage do I need to get through to get ahead? It's exactly the kind of Magic that I am not good at
Who gets decked if nothing happens?
I don't know, but that is a important question. I would have to assume it's not Ochoa.
Said Scorpion got Magma Jetted.
A Crow and Horse, for a card that's not in the main deck, has certainly defined not just this game, but a lot of the matches that we have seen played.
Nathan Holiday scries into that Broodmaster we were talking about earlier. Puts it on top. Scries a land to the bottom.
Ochoa readying the token. Yeah.
Here we go. Hydra Broodmaster, what you got?
Oh, okay. So Broodmaster, not the card that doubles counters, but it is the card that can put XX creatures into play.
The mythic, not the rare.
Yeah. So he's got 14 mana. So for 15, he'd be able to make, what, 7/7/7s? It's a lot of creatures. And Ocho, yeah, reading it. So Ocho might have to do something.
Yeah.
If it's 7/7/7s, I don't know that he has enough blockers to survive that through trample damage.
Yeah, that archetype does give everything trample.
And at the end of the turn, he can make... He can make 3/3.
Yeah, the monstrous cost is GXX. So if he doesn't get to untap, if he's just responding to, say, a removal spell, then he can currently make 3/3/3s. If he gets to untap, he's currently on 6/6/6s. Is that cast into darkness? Oh, and so he's enchanting it?
Yeah, I guess so. Oh, he's going to enchant it with Cast into Darkness and then kill it with Feast of Dreams.
I mean, you do what you got to do.
Which is, yeah, I mean, exactly. You're
not giving your opponent 7/7/7s.
We have seen some crazy Magic in Limited in this format. I mean, we've seen, you know, Night Howler trampling Humblers of Mortals. We've seen the threat of 50 power worth of animal from a single creature. 50 plus power.
No cards, yeah, I think.
Yeah, and here it is.
There is the Broodmaster.
I think this card...
XG.
Does this card hold the record for number of X's in a text box? I think it's tied with something else. I think I read that in the Mark Rosewater article. Randy, I am so excited that I do not have pro points and dollars on the line having to think about this board state. Oh, man. I don't know how you'd play your next match. After you get through this, you're like, well...
Yes, my Hydra Broodmaster is enchanted. It can't block, and it is only a... How big is it?
Merely a, what, 5/7? Or what is Hydra Broodmaster naturally? Is it a 6/6? Is it a... It's a 7/7, yeah.
You were right.
I mean, the thing that I'm thinking about if I'm Ocho now, though, is like, how do I win game 3?
Yeah, there's the Feast of Dreams that we expected, that Nathan Holiday also expected. Why were you putting Cast of Darkness on my guy? You needed me to have an enchanted creature. Feast of Dreams, it's about as good as it gets for removal in this block. Destroy an enchanted creature or an enchantment creature. Obviously more efficient when you're pointing it at, say, Courser of Crufix, like you did in the first game, but if something needs to die, you can do it. So Ochoa plays 2 of the cards in his hand, and Holiday somehow, as a result, winds up with a trio of 3/3s. That seems fair.
Yeah, right. So right, your card that was your way of winning the game, instead of straight up winning you the game, merely makes your opponent discard 2 cards and gives you 3/3/3s, and yet that may not be enough.
No. Ochoa doesn't have a lot of cards in his hand, though. God, he would so love a triple enchantment turn. Clean things up so well.
It absolutely would, and he had to use one of those
Time to see who's
enchantments
getting decked.
in the Cast of Darkness just to get the Broodmaster off
Can
the
we
table.
hear from the judge what the count was?
Man.
See if we can get word from the floor.
Anytime your opponent is counting each of
Both
your
players
lists
have
1 by
9
1.
cards left. It's currently Ochoa's turn. So Holiday's going to get decked? Whose turn is it? Or is it Holiday's main phase? If they both have 9 cards, then whoever is in their main phase is winning. It's Ochoa's main phase right now. Oh, Nathan's turn.
So it's Nathan's.
Ochoa's going to get decked. Ochoa actually has to win this.
He's got a lot of creatures. But, you know, I think that he had a more pressing advantage several
Before the Hydra
turns ago.
Broodmaster?
Yeah, weirdly. Yeah, right, exactly.
Neat how that works.
Huh, that's fascinating. Right.
Oh, by the way, Arbor Colossus is just hanging out.
Yeah,
It's
right.
like one of the assorted blockers.
Yeah, no, it hasn't monstrous yet on the off chance that Ocho gets a flying creature, because that's one of the few things that could break through this
Right,
stalemate.
yeah. Abhorrent Overlord comes down. I mean, we know Ocho doesn't have one, but
Right.
Nathan Holiday doesn't know that. That's the easiest way for him to imagine losing this, I would think.
Right, and that's what you got to do when you're at in a format like that, or in a tournament like this, is you're literally trying to play around everything. Just after this board state, you know, A, if Ocho wins, they're going to have to play a 3rd game. B, you've still got 2 more rounds of Magic to play.
Uh-oh. What's happening to Doomwake Giant?
I think it is dying. Or not.
Oh, no, it's indestructible.
Some Mortal's Ardor there. All right.
Destroy target land or enchantment has gotten a lot of play.
Yeah, it really has.
Wow, look at all those cards. So many permanents. 2 matches down.
And yeah, I've actually been forgetting about how huge that Fury's Band Centaur is. It's now quietly up to an 8/8. Soon we'll be able to fight with an Arbor Colossus, trade with it, and defeat it in combat. Oh man, this is big game. This card, when activated, can deal 2 damage to target opponent and each creature he or she controls. So, threatening to wipe all of those tokens off the board, and
Wow.
Holiday has enough mana to activate it.
Wildfire Cerberus.
The
Not
aptly
one of the
named.
best red cards in Journey. Some people don't even like it. It's a little slow, it's a little clunky, but that's for draft. Sealed deck, it's plenty fast enough. And sometimes your opponent has 37 soldier tokens.
Yeah, also, it would take care of that Golden Hind. I mean, yeah, that's just a big top take for Holiday.
Yeah, there's 18 soldiers over there. He's about to pick up number
Jeez.
19. Nathan Holiday's going to win this.
I mean, I don't see what Ocho can do about that unless he has a removal spell in response. You see Scourge Mark threatening to do something crazy with Doomwake Giant, gives him a cantrip, just needs a few other enchantments. I know he's got Bow of Nylea.
Oh, right. Yeah, he's played this game without drawing his bow.
Which, so that's what he was doing, I guess, was just waiting to draw Bow of Nylea and attack with a bunch of Death Touch creatures.
Sure. Makes a ton of sense.
Ocho having to do the, can I read that?
He does now have the bow in his hand.
So yeah, that has to be what he is setting up for, Randy. So he's got Scourge Mark Bow, meaning that he can shrink the overwhelming majority of Holiday's creatures. One more enchantment lets him kill a lot of them.
Yeah, Cerberus wipes his board, though.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, this board is about to get a lot simpler, one way or the other.
All right, here's Scourge Mark. That'll start things off. That is an enchantment, triggering the Doomwake Giant. Also triggering Fairy's Band. No, not triggering Fairy's Band Tromper. Never mind. He put it on the Tromper, not the Staunch Hearted Warrior.
Right. I guess he says warrior big enough already. Yeah, he's going to have to do something about that Cerberus.
3 mana, probably Bow of Nylea?
That's what my guess would be as well. Yes.
Bow of Nylea.
And there it is. We see the card on the screen. The card does literally everything. Your attackers have Death Touch. Then you get one ability that's either a counter, 2 damage to a flyer, 3 life, or stacking cards on the bottom of the library. That is another reason he was going to play the long game. Yeah, exactly. Not only is he not getting decked, he can at some point just start setting up his draws.
Wow. And Nathan Holiday is putting that together right now. They counted libraries. It was 9-9. It was his turn. He was in position to win via decking. But Bow of Nylea thwarts that plan.
At the same time, Holiday, a lot of creatures on the battlefield, and he is going to be able, if Ocho doesn't play a couple more enchantments this turn, to mount a very, very powerful offense.
Yeah, does Ochoa have a 3rd enchantment to play here? I don't think he does.
I can't tell. I would assume not. He's still got a lot of very good attacks. Yeah, and that they're saying right now that 2/2 should be dead, as should Archetype of Aggression.
Archetype of Aggression, doesn't it have...
oh, no, you're right. Yeah, he enchanted it.
Wow.
So
Nathan Holiday does need to win. He can't win via decking. He is going to have to attack for damage at some point in the next half dozen turns or so.
yeah, Bo just completely alters the dynamic of this game. And now Holiday, I think, thinking about what his blockers are going to look like.
Right, I think he's still responding to the bow.
Yeah.
I don't think they've processed the trigger from the Doomwake Giant. I think Holiday is trying to think about how he would block should David Ochoa turn them all sideways, and thereby figure out how he wants to respond to the bow. I'm not sure what he's thinking about responding with. I mean, he clearly has the activated ability from the Wildfire Cerberus, which, yeah, okay. He goes monstrous. He deals 2 damage to all of Ochoa's creatures. 19 soldier tokens die.
Although he hasn't yet seemingly activated it, I think Holiday just wants to count and make sure he knows. Oh, okay.
Oh, they're attacking. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So why is the 2/2 alive after the 2 enchantments?
An excellent question.
Yeah, that 2/2 should be dead because 2 enchantments have been played.
Exactly. Unless Holiday is saying that Ocho missed a trigger.
He just missed the trigger. Ochoa missed the trigger.
And that is one of those things that, like, the board state has to change. So if, you know, enough time passed after the 2nd enchantment or an action happened and the 2/2 remained on the battlefield, that just provides evidence that Ocho missed the trigger.
All right, so all the soldier tokens go in. Ochoa has no reason not to attack with them because Nathan Holiday can kill them whenever he wants to. And I think what Ochoa wants is to just force Holiday to push the button.
Right.
It's like, I don't want you having the ability to push this button in the future. I'll just make you push it now, which is pretty bad for Ochoa. Although Bow of Nylea is pretty good for Ochoa. I don't know what happens from here. 3rd enchantment would be, well, now that he's missed the trigger, he'd need 2 more enchantments.
Yeah, and yeah, that is a huge miss trigger, especially if he's about to cast an enchantment here. Oh, wow. That is a Champion of Stray Souls threatening to get back anything in the graveyard. Again, Ochoa needed those soldier tokens, so just that Wildfire Cerberus MVP in this game.
Yeah.
And Holiday now on the offensive, a lot of power.
Wow.
We see Vulpine Goliath, Arbor Colossus. We see a 5/4 Archetype of Aggression. We see a 6/6 Ill-Tempered Cyclops, 3/3/3 Hydras, 4/3 Cerberus. I mean,
Yet more graveyard recursion, by the way. Ochoa was never getting decked.
Oh, because of the Stray Souls?
Yeah, it can go from the
Just put it
graveyard
on
into
its-
play into
yep.
the top of the library.
Yep.
Nathan Holiday now trying to figure out if he can attack. Here's his window, right?
You would
There's
have
only
to
one
expect.
soldier. Things don't get better.
Yeah. Right. I mean, I think what he's trying to figure out now is what can he attack with if he can attack for lethal so as not to die on the counterattack. And that is, of course, always the age-old question in battles like this. So Ochoa 7-7 staunch-hearted warrior. We see a 10-9 Fury's Band Tromper, a 4-6 Doomweight Giant, his own 6-5 Volpine Goliath, 4-4 Champion of Stray Souls. A lot of creatures and a lot of power, but not nearly as much as what Holiday is providing.
Oh, by the way, there's only 4.5 minutes left in this round.
Right.
And they're in game 2.
Yeah, if Ochoa wins, I think you're absolutely right. He would be playing essentially for the draw here. I guarantee you if I was in Holiday's position, I would just attack with all my creatures. I would probably lose by virtue of doing so, but this is just,
you just want clarity.
I just want clarity. Yeah, I just want the board to be simplified. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, Magic is not an easy game. And sometimes you get to board states like this where you know you have an advantage, but you've got to implement correctly or you're not going to be able to capitalize on it.
It's not that big of an advantage. I mean, he has no clean attacks.
I'll declare my attack phase.
Fairy's Band Tromper is 9-9. Can't even attack with Arbor Colossus.
Right. Right. If he does, it just gets. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, it could kill. It could straight up 1-for-1 the Tromper.
Hooray!
But at the same time, I mean, you've got to do something because of Bow of Nylea. So you've got to figure out what can allow you to either kill some of Ochoa's creatures or deal some amount of damage while not just totally abyssing your own board. I mean, maximum Ochoa can eat 4 creatures, right? That is the maximum amount of creatures he can kill.
All right, Holiday's
5,
lining
I
up an
guess.
attack. Volpine Goliath turns sideways. Arbor Colossus. The 3/3/3 from the Hydra. Everything. He's on your plan.
I love it.
Yes.
Turn them all sideways. Basically, says to David Ochoa, you figure this out.
Now, I will point out Holiday holding Polis Crusher and not activating it to straight up blow up either the Emissary or Doom or the Giant. So he's leaving up mana to activate Monstrous on Arbor Colossus, but he has enough mana to just play Polis Crusher and activate it, which, I mean, is definitely very, very, very relevant in this board state.
Yeah, it doesn't have to attack to kill an
it's
enchantment?
not. Oh, okay, that's right.
Yeah.
I'm thinking it's activate Monstrous, blow up an enchantment,
No.
but it's not. It's activate Monstrous, and when you
If you
attack,
deal
you can blow up an
damage, yeah.
enchantment. My fault.
All right, Ochoa, yeah, Arbor Colossus runs into Tromper. That seems pretty straightforward. Doomwake Giant on Wildfire Cerberus. He wins that fight. Does both Nylea's +1/+1 make the Tromper actually just beat up the Arbor Colossus? How big is Colossus after Monsters? 9-9?
It's 9/9, right? And
Yeah,
the
so he
Tromper
can
would be
get
an
to 10-10.
11/10.
Yeah, he can get to 10 toughness, so.
Right.
If he uses his bow there, he wins that fight.
Bow is going to do something very relevant this combat. Either allow a creature to survive, gain him life. Yeah, the bow activation is going to do something that matters a lot.
Volpine Goliaths are going to smash into each other. Looks like the Stone-Charted Warrior is going to eat the Ill-Tempered Cyclops. It's a 7/7, right? So that's just another profitable trade. You know the other thing going on from Nathan Holiday's side of the board?
What's that?
He just wants to make this game as complicated as possible because he could actually win this match 1-0. If Ochoa doesn't have time to win this game, Holiday wins the match 1-0.
That's an excellent point.
He's kind of free-rolling, right? There's no way he loses this match.
Well, I mean,
if the game ends, it's probably a draw. So he may as well make it as complicated and tricky as possible. And maybe Ochoa doesn't actually have time to deck him.
You're absolutely right that Holiday cannot lose this match in any meaningful way.
Exactly.
If
and I think the only way he wins the match is if this game drags out for another, 5 minutes or so.
And which you're right, he can do by making a really complicated combat. On the other hand, by attacking with all of his creatures, he opens himself up to just getting one-shotted on the back end.
Yeah.
But it looks like Holiday's getting through enough
Is that
damage.
lethal?
3, 6, 9, 12, 13,
Yeah.
14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And so that's 20 damage. I don't know if an enchantment entered the battlefield this turn. If it didn't, that's 20 damage, and Ochoa can gain 3 life to go up to 21. Thus, staying alive by the barest of margins.
Yeah, well, 2 cards are
And then cracking back for lethal. May have
Yeah.
to keep the Tromper alive. So I don't know if he can
He wouldn't have.
use
Yeah,
the bow. Like, this block looks like he needs to gain 3 life to stay alive.
that is absolutely right.
3, 6,
So he
9,
would lose the
12,
Tromper.
13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18,
Oh, we have 1 element.
19, 20. You know what? He's dying to the mistrigger 2-2.
Yep.
After all that,
Coming
that's
back to
actually
haunt him.
relevant. Yeah, this block he takes 20, which presumably means he's planning to gain 3 from the bow. I think he wants to keep the Tromper alive for the crackback. Oh, there was trample damage from Goliath coming through. Yeah, he actually has to worry about trample damage as well. So he's moved a soldier token into the Goliath block so that he doesn't take any trample damage. So that, yeah, he was actually taking 21 the way he had it lined up. Oh, and the archetype means everybody has trample.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Oh, so that means you can't, chunk blocks are not profitable at all.
Right, yeah, and
Since everybody has trample, and yeah, that archetype is dealing 1 trample damage?
right now
It's a 5/4 being blocked by a 4/4,
Yep.
right?
So yeah,
That's 21.
it may just be that Ocho doesn't have the right blocks. Holiday may have just derived the perfect attack.
He figured all this out.
Right, he figured out the perfect attack is attack with everything. I guess derived is a loose term
And the
there.
2/2 is super relevant. The 2/2 that
Oh,
should be dead
The 2/2 is
from
this
the
entire
Mist Doomwave
game.
trigger.
Absolutely, this entire game. Yeah, and that, I mean that's gonna be it.
Yeah. Arbor Colossus goes large to kill the Tromper, gain 3 life. Ochoa to 21.
Okay, so
And that's
think he
20
gets-
and a pointed
I
trample.
count 20 in a pointed trample. I won't be surprised if we counted it wrong, but it looks like there's 1 pointed trample there and 20 unblocked.
That is also what I see.
no trample there.
I don't think there's any other trample.
No.
No, it doesn't appear as there is.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
3, 6, 9, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and that's
Wow. Nathan Holiday turns them all sideways, gets the 2-0 clean win. No problem.
it. That was an epic combat, Randy. No other
crazy
way
game.
to describe it.
Absolutely crazy game. Hello again, Randy Bueller here with Zach Hill.